Hey guys, it's Andrew, the Urban Bayman. I'm standing on the edge. I'm outside of Hiscox stage, looking back over the lower battery below Signal Hill. This is the Narrows. It's the entrance to St. John's Harbour. And today, well, it's interesting when you're on St. John's Harbour and you see the old infrastructure from our fishery that is really in many ways long past. We also are seeing the oil and gas companies they're on some sort of training mission here today, and their FRCs are coming in out of the harbour. And it's reminded me of a press release, and I shouldn't say it was a press release because I was corrected on that earlier today. It was a memorandum, a leaked memorandum from Equinor about the Bay du Nord oil deposit, the oil resource that we've discovered off the coast of Newfoundland. Right, and when they first announced this discovery, right, I mean, we have a couple of really good drill holes out there. We were estimating 300 million barrels of oil, but the memo leaked an extra 700 million. All of a sudden, 1 billion barrels of oil. 1 billion barrels of oil is cause for great excitement in Newfoundland. Right? You can imagine the revenues, you can imagine the opportunity, the jobs, everything that goes into extracting that resource, delivering that resource, and eventually selling that resource. Right? In times like this, look, we're strapped economically. We've been on a bit of a spending spree, as everybody knows. Right? We're in the middle of a pandemic, or at least the tail end of a pandemic. But regardless, some hard decisions are going to have to be made going forward. When we hear about 1 billion barrels, right? It's a reason to be optimistic. But when they made the comparable, it caught my ear, caught my attention, because Equinor compared it to the deposit, the resource opportunity that they have off the coast of Brazil, called Bacalhau. And the Bacalhau, when I heard it first, I said, do we have an oil field here? Because I thought they were making reference to an oil field in Newfoundland. Because Bacalhau, of course, is salted fish, salted codfish, cod that would have been caught in Newfoundland, right? A cod that we use to feed the world. Because what you have to remember is when Cabot and Columbus and all of these people first made their trek across the Atlantic Ocean, they weren't looking for us. Right? They did not know that North America existed. When they jumped off their boats, they didn't reach their hand out and say, hey, Noof. Right? They called them Indians because that's where they were headed. They were headed for India. You have to remember the cities throughout Europe have grown to such enormity at that period of time that the people are actually starving for protein, because there's no way you can keep enough livestock around your doorstep. Right? Your water is becoming contaminated. These people were driven to sail across the ocean in search for spices that they would use to preserve their protein, to be able to feed their people. Right? We often suggest, and we shouldn't say we often suggest, there's a great quote, and you've heard me use it a couple of times, from the ecological history of North America, when it was suggested they discovered North America by accident and resented it for 200 years. Right? They were trying to get to India. They were looking for spices. They needed spices to preserve their meat, to preserve their protein. Right? Newfoundland was their compensation, you might say, because here we had fish, right? Fish that you could preserve indefinitely with a little bit of salt and some dry air. You got it, you split it, you lay it out in the sun and the salt, and you can feed the world with it. And we did, to such extreme. The Bacalhau, well, there are thousands of dishes all throughout Europe. Every single European community has a history, has a culture that is based on Bacalhau. You can think now, guys, before the days of refrigeration, when you couldn't keep protein, this salt fish, right, a fish that you could prepare without any spices, without any cultural fingerprint, you could prepare it the way that your family, your crew enjoyed to eat. Right? Can you imagine the value? And of course, the lesson that should be learned here is that our bacalhau, our salt, or bacalhau, however you want to pronounce it, our salt fish trade, it died with the advent of refrigeration. And when I say it died, the fishery, instead of making adjustments to accommodate markets, what do? We doubled down on production, right? We lost the quality of our fish. Look, we lost our fishery, right? I would like for us to think going forward when it comes to our energy resources, that instead of doubling down, right, we start to think of ways outside the box, because bacalhau is still to this day a delicacy. There is still a demand for it. No, it's nowhere near as what it was. Just as I believe there'll be a demand for energy, for our energy, if we present it in a different light. Maybe we should have taken more care when it came to preparing our saltfish. We should have been chasing those niche markets, those very high-end markets. It's going to be the same for our energy, right? Can we produce a carbon-neutral energy from our hydrocarbons here in Newfoundland? I talked earlier about Chenye doing it with his LNG, right? In the cleanest, greenest place on the planet, with a reserve that's offshore, it takes very, very little energy to extract, right? That is so sweet it requires such little refining. I would have to think, right, that yes, potentially, that is a way we can present our energy. All we have to do is start thinking outside the box. Guys, I hope these videos find you well. I hope you're enjoying the opportunity to think a little bit differently, and I hope you subscribe to our channel. I'm Andrew McCarthy. I'm the Urban Bayman. Thank you.